Welcome, everyone, to my channel. If you've been here before, you know the drills. If you haven't, sit down, pull up a seat, sit down. We are going to talk about... Oh my god, the light's so terrible in my room, I swear. Okay. Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. Part of the Shadow Dweller series. This is the Infernal Devices, Book 1. Okay. I want to tell you, this time actually starts off with a little bit of a bang, more than anything. And if you can hear it raining in the background, sorry, it's like a storming right now. We have a wind advisory. We also have a ice advisory at the time of this recording in January. Okay. So yeah, it starts off with a bang. The first thing is you meet William Herondale, or Will, as he likes to be called. He just slayed a Shanks, and he's calling out for his brother, not his brother, but his friend Jem. I forgot to read it back to you too, but this one. When Tessa Gray crosses the ocean to find her brother in Victorian England, something terrifying is waiting for her in London's downworld. Kidnapped by the mysterious Dark Sisters, who are members of a secret organization called the Pandemonium Club, Tessa soon learns that she has the power to transform into another person. The Magister, the shadowy figure who runs the club, will stop at nothing to claim Tessa's power for his own. Friendless and hunted, Tessa takes refuge with the Shadow Hunters, warriors dedicated to ridding the world of demons. She soon finds herself fascinated by and torn between two best friends, James and Will. As Tessa is drawn deep into a plot that threatens to destroy the Shadowhunters, she realizes that she may need to choose between saving her brother and helping her new friend save the world. And that love may be the most dangerous magic of all. But yeah, Jem had found, actually, what he found was a little dead girl's body, and his name is Jem for short. There's a lot of Carstairs. Yeah, they found a dead body, a girl no more than 14, and they found a Ouroboros double one on a blade, and they were wondering what that was, right? And then it switches to Tessa a month later, in May, and she has gotten onto a ship called the Maine, and its way from New York City to what's it fucking called? She said it a few times, but I mean, like, I don't remember. Southampton, London. And who meets her there is some dude. His sister says, "You are Miss Gray. Your brother sent me. Come with me." And it leads them to a door. Her name is Teresa Gray. Two women get out of a carriage, and they introduce themselves as Mrs. Black and her sister, Mrs. Dark. The Dark Sisters. And they have a note saying from her brother, that she thinks is from her brother, that says, like, "Hey, these guys are here to pick you up. Don't worry about it. I vouch for them. They'll bring you to my home in London." She's like, "What about my porter flex my trunk?" She's like, no need. We've already arranged it to be sent ahead. And so they pull her in, and she sees on the side the Pandemonium Club, and she asks what that is. No, don't worry about it. Now, she's got this little clockwork necklace angel thing. It's like a clockwork angel that's ticking, and it's ticking continuously, that her brother gave her, Nathaniel. 6 weeks later, chapter 1, The Dark House. The sisters ask for her, Tessa, and by who it is Miranda, who just works there. So she says one moment to Miranda, and she goes outside, and then she gets up, checks her facelesses, and talks about how when she first got here, she did a lot of struggling, as in she refused to go until she was dragged down, kicking and screaming, to see the Dark Sisters, whom she learned liked to really actually be called that. Right? So this time around, after the first week, she just goes down there. The room is actually very dank and dingy and watery and moldy. And she's given this pink bow hair ribbon, and she's told to change. Now, what Tessa didn't know is that she was actually able to change into another person called a ship changer. And at first, she didn't even know how to do it. And now she can do it. It also was painful the first couple of times, and now it's very easy to do. Then they're asking names, because apparently while she's in that other person's body, she knows what they know, and they speak through her. And they learn that it's Emma Bayless. They learn, like, everything about her. And then they ask, what were you doing on the street the night you died? And, you know, she talks about how she was killed, and she died in alloy blood to death. And they were happy about that. And then they're like, okay, well, she needs to be lightened up. It's time for us to hand her over to the boss, magistrate, to her master. And so they're like, well, great, we'll call for her. And then it's like, take the girl out to her room, get her ready, get the dress ready. And Miranda's like, the things you showed me? And then they had to talk with her. And then she's like, well, I gotta take you to your room. Come on, let's go. And she's like, who is the magistrate? And the girl's like, the magistrate is a very great man. It'll be an honor for you when you are married to him. She's like, married? And then she's like, no. And she struggles. She grabs the globe that one of the witches was twirling, and she smacked it across Miranda's head. And then Miranda, whole left side of her face was crushed in like a paper mask, no blood. She continued talking, and then she kind of like a robot that's been broken, kind of goes crazy, Howard. And then she escapes through the house, outside, runs into the coachman, the Dark Sisters coachman. So she's tied to her bed, and they're like, don't worry, if you do this again, we'll sit there and whip you, and we'll also kill your brother. So, you know, don't escape again. And while she's in there, thinking about what's going to happen to her, she realizes that she can actually change into that little girl, Emma, and her arms will come loose. So that's what happens. And then she struggles really hard with the knots on her legs, and she's finally free when she changes back to herself. And then she hears a noise, and she actually smacks the dude that comes in, and he yells, and it's like a teenager, and he turns to her, and he's like, you cut me, it might be fatal. She's like, are you the amateur? Dear me, massive bloodlust, death could be imminent. And she's asking, and he's like, nope, never heard of him. She's like, he's like, are you highly intoxicated? At the moment, she's like, how very direct of you. I suppose all Americans are. Your accent gives you away. And she's like, what's your name? And she's like, what's your name? Don't you know it? No. He's like, my name is Harringdale, William Harringdale, but everybody calls me Will. Is this room? And he's like, here, hold this. It's a witch light, of course. And he's like, well, I'm here to rescue you. And he quotes, Sir Galahad, my strength is as strong as the strength of 10, because my heart is pure. And so they leave her room, because he actually unlocks the door somehow. She didn't think it was going to be true. And they're like, oh, they realize you're gone. And then they go down into the cellar, into the area that she didn't want to go into. And she's like, Mr. Handel, did my brother send you? And he's like, never heard of your brother. Don't know who that is. And then they hear out Mrs. Dark and Mrs. Black calling for her. And they're like, well, you know, we need help. And then he calls for someone named Henry to give him some assistance. And war breaks out. Well, fight breaks out between them all. Mrs. Dark dies. So, yeah, the fight happens there. Tessa did bite Henry. Because she was surprised. And then she got some lightning into her, and she got knocked out. And or was it Mrs. Black that died? She has a dream about the sisters. Then it transforms to her aunt, and then it transforms to an unfamiliar female voice saying, Enoch. He's like, not human. Well, if she's not human, Enoch, what is she? What do you mean you don't know? Everything's something. And she woke up, saw Brother Enoch, who's a silent brother, and kind of freaks out. When she finally gets her bearings, she's introduced to Charlotte Branwell, head of the London Institute of the Shadow Hunters. And beside her was Brother Enoch. She asks where Mr. Herendel is. He's like in the suit. She's like, did you bring me here? He's, yep. Don't worry, we're not going to trap you here. We can't trap downworlders. She's the downworlder. The Accords. And then, as Brother Enoch leaves, he looks at Tessa and goes, you are Eidolon, Teresa Garai, shape changer, but not of a sort that is familiar to me. There is no demon's mark on you. So, they have a discussion about the Institute, about who Charlotte is, about what she knows, what they know about Tessa. That's it. Mrs. Black is dead. Mrs. Dark is gone. Yeah, that's who it is. I got it backwards. But they found the letters for her brother, but not her brother. They searched the whole place. And they're like, well, we'll keep you here, safe and sound, until your brother is found. But you have to also help us out. Telling us everything you know about the Pandemonium Club and the Dark Sisters. So she does. She also learns she's a downworlder because she's what she is, but they don't know whether she's a warlock or not. She calls in for Sophie, who is a maid, and with a Jessa Mines old dress for her to wear to dinner. So, yeah. Sophie helps her dress. And, she goes down to dinner, where she meets Jessamine. She also meets, well, her name's Jessamine Lovelace. She also meets, Henry again, and learns that Henry is Henry Branwell, and that Branwell is Charlotte's husband. They're all shadow hunters, obviously. Jem didn't come, so she didn't meet Jem yet. They talk about what she is, the Pandemonium Club, and of course, Henry's on fire. He had a flame retardant mixture, and it worked because he didn't even know he was on fire for a while, buddy. Jessamine does not really like the fact that Tessa's there, but you know, like they're going to allow it. So she asks about, Jessamine asks about her ability and her chains, and she's like, well, I can show you, but I need something. It's like, okay, what is it? She's like, I need something from you. A ring or a handkerchief. Jessamine kind of fights it until he gives one over, a ring, and then she turns into Jessamine. And Jessamine's like, goodness, my nose is enormous. Why didn't anyone tell me? Of course, she was shocked at first, but they got over it. So then she transforms back, and they grill her some more about what she can do, how she has to hold something that belonged to the person. She didn't know if holding a vial of blood would work. She doesn't know why they wanted her, or how they knew, or what they were doing with her. All she knew was that she was to be married to this dude she never met, the Magister. And she finds out that, you know, they found her because they were looking into the murder, for the murderer of Emma Bayliss, because they did not think it was a mundane that killed her. They did find a room with a white wedding dress hanging in the wardrobe, so definitely true. And they talk about how in the Pandemonium Club they met people like Magnus Bane, Lady Belcourt, Ragnar Fell. Well, at this event, there was quite a few downworlders. De Quincey. Then they ask about, she's like, one time they did mention some dude's name, but I don't remember. It sounded foreign. Oh, someone's name. They didn't say dude. But she didn't know anything about the Pandemonium Club besides the fact that it was a club that they went to meetings, and how the other members were pleased with how she was doing with her. They were doing with her. And then they're like, well, we'll find Nate. Don't worry about it. We'll start with his workplace and go from there. So, after dinner, she excused herself and she got lost wandering around because she didn't know nothing. Will says, well, why don't I show you around so you don't get lost? And he escorts her around, shows her everywhere, explains things to her, like the fact that the place is built on consecrated ground, that it has more rooms than you can count, it can hold hundreds of slayers or shadow hunters at once. It's called an enclave for them, and in New York it's called a conclave. Then she meets Agatha the cook, but we learned that Tessa doesn't like chocolate, and Will is horrified about that. Then she meets Thomas in the armory, and how even though he's not a shadow hunter, he can see because he has a sight. She learns about the pirates and demons who get trapped inside of them. She gets pulled into she gets shown the great library, and he pulls out a book called the Shadow Hunter's Codex so she can learn about shadow hunters. He's like, I'll find you some books that you want to read. And she's like, I want to read fiction. I don't want to read books. I want to enjoy them, like Little Women and The Wide Wide World. And he's like, we think we have a copy of Alice in Wonderland, Oliver Twist, A Tale of Two Cities, Lady Audley's Secret. She reads about it, and she's like, oh, you're part angel. And it's like, we are dust and shadows. So he talks about how they burn their body when they die. To dust to dust. She asks a few questions about why I live in a fortress. Learns that none of them have parents. That just means that in the fire, gems were murdered by demons. And they're one another's family. And then they talk about how Charlotte is also a shadow hunter who fights. And she's like, what do you mean? Women don't fight. She's like, yeah, they do. And it's like, some women do. And she's like, confused about that. And he's like, it's late. I should show you back to your room. She's asking more questions. They run into Sophie, who has cleaned his room. And he gets upset because she's like, did something happen between you? And he's like, Tessa, enough. There are things you can't hope to understand. She's like, well, of course I can if you don't tell me. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to. And she's like, well, I know some stuff about you. And he's like, I know you're an orphan. He's like, I never said I was an orphan. And I loathe poetry. So it happens you really don't know anything about me at all. And then he walked away. So it took her a while to find her room again. And then she went to sleep. When she woke up, she realized she was dreaming of a music. And she followed that music into a room, thinking it was Will. And then she meets James Carstairs. So she learns that he was born in he lived in Shanghai. That's where he was from, because his mother was Chinese and his father was American. British, sorry. And they met in London and moved to Shanghai, where he was off position running the institute there. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, they're dead, aren't they? And he's like, yeah, I was really young. I was 3 when it happened. I don't remember them really well. Well, I was young. And then he's like, oh, what about you? And he's like, yeah, I was 3 when my parents died in a car accident. I hardly remember them at all. My aunt raised me and my brother Nathaniel. She just died recently, took ill. And that's why I came up with that. And then she talks about how she doesn't think it was her brother who wrote the letters. And she doesn't know what happened to him. So Jem, answers a lot of questions that she didn't have before. And he's like, I was dreaming too. I dreamed about your music. And she asks, why are you awake? He's like, I can't sleep. And it's like nightmares. And she's like, me too. And then Will interrupts, and they have this talk about why he's wet. And he talks about how he went to the Devil Tavern, and he was in pursuit of blind, truthless, and wayward women. Consumed his third drink, he thought was a delicate small flower-selling child. So he's like, literally, I was accosted by a delightful small flower-selling child who asked me for 2 pence for a daisy. I refused. And then robbed me. And then I learned that it wasn't a little girl doll, but it was a midget in a dress with a pretense for violence, named Six-Fingered Nigel. I caught him in the act of slipping his hand in my pocket. I couldn't let it stand. We had a bar fight. She said, that doesn't explain why your hair's wet. It's like, It was a fair fight, but the perpetrator tossed me out. And you learn that he smacked something on the back of his head for that. And they talked about why she was in his room. The violin woke him up. How she thought it was pretty. And then about Jessamine hating, not standing Will. Henry would set me on fire. And he's like, Henry then? And he's like, no, Henry will set you fire. Thomas? He's like, Thomas, but he doesn't start. But then he starts coughing up blood. And he's like, don't tell anyone about this, okay? He's got his medicine. I will take care of it. So, the next day, Sophie helps her dress again. And she actually talks about Miss Randall. She's like, oh, well, you have to need a site to do it. And I wanted, my condition for living here was to be able to talk to him anyone I want. It's like, Miss Brandon wanted me right away when she found out I had a site. She warned me about Mr. Handel, and he would likely be rude to me. She said I could be rude right back, that nobody would mind, so that's why she's rude to him. So, they're trying to figure out what to do with her, but of course, they're not going to turn her out until after they fetch her and find her brother. And she's like, well, you got to tell Benedict Lightwood about this. And it's like, Will, I would like you and Jem to go back to Dark Sister's house and do a final search. He's like, is Jem well enough? And he's like, I'm quite well. I can do it. And then they kind of have a little lie about how they met. It's like, oh, I encountered her in a corridor last night, introduced myself. I think I may have given her a fright. And they're like, well, Miss Gray, because she's like, call me Tessie. Well, Tessa, my Henry and I will pay a visit to your brother's employer to see if he knows anything. And then we'll go from there. And then they're like, Jessamine, you will read a newspaper with Tessa. She's like, I won't. And ladies don't read a newspaper. And she's like, you are a shadow hunter first, lady next. And she's like, well, I'm going to take her shopping because she needs clothes. She can't be wearing the same dress all the time. And it's like, okay. Then Will's like, should we leave? And Jem's like, I need to finish my tea. Anyways, I don't see what you're so fired up about. You said the place hadn't been used as a brothel in ages. He's like, I want to be back before dark. I have an assassination in Soho this evening with a certain attractive someone. And just like, goodness. If you keep seeing Six-Fingered Nigel like this, he'll expect you to declare your intentions. I'd be fucking cracking up laughing. Like, no idea. And then it's them going, Jessamine and Tessa going out and getting clothes. And then she's like, well, let's go to a park. You haven't seen London at all. And that's where I ended at 120. That's 2 days worth of reading. I'll update you in another 2 days. And then another 2 days. And then the last 2 days for this. Because this is going to take me about 8 days to read. Because that's what I want. I'm going to take my time. Because it is 479 pages or something like that. And I'm just going to take my time enjoying the book. But yeah, it's already started to flare up with things. But I've realized that Cassandra Clare doesn't really waste a lot of time. And if you're reading this after reading The Mortal Instruments, you know, you've already got the world set up. So it's just giving you more of the world and things of the past. Because this happens in the past. Like, this happens before the chain of gold, chain of iron, and all that. So this happens before the last hours. And before the Mortal Instruments. And, of course, before the last one. What is the last one called? The Dark Artifacts. So, each one, you know, consecutive. So this is actually, you know, setting up like the beginning of the Shadowhunters. Not really the beginning of the Shadowhunters. But yeah. Get introduced to a lot of stuff. I read more. I've got like 4 days of reading. Apologies. I'm like almost in the book. It's gotten really interesting. Fuck, I did not mean to take that out. So, they found cogs at the place where they were holding Tessa, right? So they went to go talk to Mr. Mortimain, who makes them. And he sat there and alluded to the fact that Nathan and Tessa's father knew about Pandemonium Club and disappeared. Nate came looking for Mr. Mortimer because he knew about the Pandemonium Club and was asking a bunch of questions about it. So, he also alludes at first that he tried to turn him away or whatever, and instead Nate took to it like a duck to water. He also sits there and, after some fake force, shit, I didn't mean to say, after some fake force from Charlotte trying to persuade him to talk, he says that De Quincey is the magistrate and that he's the one who is controlling everything and is the master of it all. So they're like, okay, so what the fuck should we do about this? Right? They don't know what to do. Also, they find Melinda back there as well because Will and James go back to the place that the Dark Sisters were holding Tessa, and they find Melinda there, a machine like a clock. Okay, that happens. They bring it back. Jessamine and Tessa get attacked by a goblin, and Jessamine kills the goblin with her lovely handy dandy weaponized umbrella that Henry gave her. It's a little freaking hilarious on that part. So they think they have everything that they need, right? They're just going, oh great, good, we're wonderful. Okay, so they go in and they reach for somebody, and who they find after doing some examinations of the thing, they say we cannot but assume the Dark Sisters are harvesting parts of human bodies to create their mechanical creatures, but they don't know much else. So they approach a vampire named Camille Bellecourt for help, and she admits that she knew that De Quincey has been killing humans, draining their blood in front of a whole bunch of other vampires, and decrying the clave and their laws for the accord between the Downworlders and the Shadowhunters, because he doesn't want to be part of it, because he doesn't believe in it. Of course, most Downworlders don't believe that the Nephilim, the Shadowhunters, should be the top of the food fucking chain, because they think they're all Baptist because they're descended from angels, and they don't believe that they should be up there. They believe the Downworlders should be up there. And Camellia also confesses that the reason why she's doing this now is because she wants revenge for her lycanthrope lover that De Quincey had killed. So they come up with a plan that Tessa's going to transform into Bellecourt, and go there with Will to this party and witness De Quincey breaking the accord so they can bust in. This is where you meet Benedict Lightwood and a few other people, including Gabrielle Lightwood. Now, something happened between Gabrielle Lightwood and Will. What that is has not been hinted at, but maybe it's has to do with his sister. Iffy on that part, okay? That is severely iffy. Jessamine wants Tessa to move in with her once she comes of age so she can leave the Shadowhunter world behind, because she doesn't believe women should be part of all of that at all. And she wants to find a man to trap and marry, because she needs to be with a man and not be part of the Shadowhunter world at all. She doesn't want to be a part of it. Not a one witty bit. So, during the time, Tessa sits there and does a bunch of training to be able to act like Bellecourt. And so they have this plan with this thing called the phosphorescence, which is just do maximum light, and then all the lights go out, and then the clay will come in and arrest everybody. That doesn't really happen. When they go to it, they do witness a bunch of stuff happening. Magnus Bane is there to help out. He knows, and it's a very interesting thing. And Will finds a bunch of papers and stuff in an office when they go out to witness the murdering of the human through bloodletting. blood sucking, really. The person in it has a hood on first, and they bleed him, and then they take the hood off, saying that he has disappointed me, he has let me down, he has betrayed me, and it's Nathaniel, Nate, Tessa's brother. And so, like, she wakes out, the phosphorus goes off, and instead of lighting up and darkening the room, what it does is it catches on fire, curtain on fire, and it makes a bunch of vampires turn to ash. Now, De Quincy comes after Camellia, which is Tessa, and Will, tries to get in front of it, and actually does bite De Quincy, which is something Niflheim cannot do. The Shadowhunters cannot consume blood because it turns you into a vampire. And so he has to be forced holy water down his throat so he can puke up the holy water and the blood so he doesn't become a vampire, which Tessa had to do because do any of it. And he douses himself in water to make sure he cools down. So it's pandemonium. A lot of people got ashed, some people got hurt, and Camellia has to run into hiding. Camellia runs into hiding. Magnus Bane is upset that Camellia had to run into hiding. De Quincy escaped. There's just a lot of that going on. Okay, so Nathaniel is back. He's wild. He's like, oh my god, I gotta do this, I gotta save you, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. He's like being all kinds of wild. And he's unconscious. When Tessa wakes up, she gets called to... Oh, she goes to check up on her brother who's sleeping. Just means, like, I'm thinking about marrying your brother because he's normal and he can take me away from all of this and I don't have to worry about any of it again. And you'll be my sister-in-law, so we'll love each other. Don't worry. Like, seriously, lady, you're a flip-flopping, wishy-washy woman who just wants to leave but can't because women back in the 1880s, what year is this shit? 1878, can't be by themselves because it's improper and risky to them. She really wants them there. Will and her have a discussion. Well, actually, Will and Charlotte and Jem and what's his name, Henry, are having this discussion about what to do with Nathaniel. Will wants Nathaniel to be questioned by the Silent Brothers through the mind to find out everything that he knows, interrogated, if you will. And they're all worried that things will go bad for him because normally, for Mundanes, bad things can happen if the Silent Brothers go through them. It's a little weird, terrible. So, yeah, that's what they're talking about. And then Tessa busts in and says, oh, you've been eavesdropping, I guess. And she's like, yeah, I'll give you my mind. So she says, like, maybe you want to know these things, but it's not my fight. I'm not a shadow hunter. She's like, I don't trust you. You wanted to use me just like the Dark Sisters did. And the moment you had a chance to, the moment Lady Belcourt came along and you needed what I could do, you wanted me to do it. Never mind how dangerous it was. You behave as if I have some responsibility to your world, your laws, and your accords, but it's your world, and you're the ones meant to govern it. It's not my fault. You're doing a rotten job, right? She's like, all you're talking about downworlds and how you don't hate them, that's nothing, isn't it? Just words. You don't mean them. And as for Mundanes, have you ever thought maybe you'd be better at protecting them if you didn't despise them all so much? She said, stay away from my brother and don't follow me. Of course, she said that to Will, because Jem actually follows. And he goes, I know what you're thinking. She's like, I don't think you do. You're thinking, if they call this damp nastiness summer, what must winter be like? You'd be surprised. Winter's actually much the same. It's spring that's really lovely. She's like, is it? He's like, no. It's actually quite foggy and wet as well. He says, you were quite right to say what you did. We Shadowhunters have been what we are for so long and are so insular that we often forget to look at any situation from someone else's point of view. It is only ever about whether something is good for the Niflheim or bad for the Niflheim. Sometimes I think we forget to ask whether it's good or bad for the world. So they have a little more discussion about that, and he's like, let me show you my favorite place in the world, right? So he gives her a lesson about London and the history and everything like that, and shows her a railroad bridge, which is his favorite place in the world. And then they talk about Will for a little bit, and what they know about Will. And why Will treats Jem the way he does, right? So he's like, I don't really know why, but I just know he's different. And then he goes on to talk about how he actually followed Will one night to see what Will did. And Will just patrolled the streets up and down and then came back with wild truths. He's like, if he wishes to lie to me, then he must have a reason. And that's all he does. He does not ask him for truth. He does not ask him for anything. He allows Will to lie to him. Then she learns that Will's mother was a mundane and that they disappeared. So, when you leave the clave, there are 3 rules. The first is you must sever all contact with any and all Shadowhunters you have ever known, even your own family. They can never speak to you again, nor can you speak to them. 2, you cannot call upon the clave for help no matter what your danger. And third is that even if you should leave the clave, they can still claim to your children. So that means every 6 years, until the child is 18, a representative of the clave comes to the family and asks the child if they want to leave their family and join the Nephilim. Will denied it twice and then showed up one day at the age of 12 or so with a Knocked Institute where Charlotte in London and says, I'm a Shadowhunter, one of you, you have to let me in, I have nowhere else to go. His parents show up looking for him, but Will refuses to leave. He does not want to go, so they turn him away because, once that happens, once the child joins the Shadowhunters, that's it, they're Shadowhunters. The clave is responsible, not the parents. So then he talks about how, he sees a couple walking and like a bit late for them camping, and they're like, oh yeah. It's like, she's like, why did you come here? Why didn't you stay at the Institute? It's like, my parents ran the Institute. But then they were murdered by a demon. It was called Yan Lu. And, I was fucking trying to get rid of the and in my freaking vocabulary and the so, I'm trying to. So that way I don't have to edit so much shit around it, because it's a little difficult for me to edit that out. It really is. So I'm trying to ramble the way I want to ramble without saying so all the time. Killed them, obviously, and he said after they died, everyone thought it would be safest for me to leave the country. So he came to England where neither of his parents had ever been. That's why he's there. And then he learns that, even though his father is British, Nephilims are not like that. They are Shadowhunters first, and then they are whatever their country they're born in, and that's it. There's nothing else about them. So they turn to go back, and then they get stopped. And that's when they find out that it's a coachman. And he says, I belong, he belongs to the Dark Sisters. And he's like, I belong to the Magister. Well, the Dark Sisters served him, I served them. Now I serve him alone. It's like, they're like, who are you? Why are you following us? The Magister has directed us to follow you. You are Niflheim. You are responsible for the destruction of his home, the destruction of his people, the children of the night. We are here to deliver a declaration of war, and we are here for the girl. She is the property of the Magister, and he will have her. And Gem's like, Magister? Do you mean the Quincy? The name you give him does not matter. He is a Magister. He is supposed to deliver a message. That message is war. Beware, says the woman. Beware, Nephilim. As you slay others, so shall you be slain. Your angel cannot protect you against that which neither God nor the devil has made. And then they attack. So the coachman is trying to get to Tessa and them. So they fight, and then they're fighting, and then they're fighting. They do a lot of fighting. Jim does collapse, and she's like, "Oh my God, he's like, go inside." And she's like, "Are you hurt? Are you injured?" And he's like, "No." And then so she rattles up the gate, and she tries to pull him along, and she's like, Jim, you have to open the door, because she can't open the door. She's not Shadowhunter. She's Downworlder. So as they come after her and him, she's trying to fight it, and then the door busts open, and Charlotte comes out with Henry and Will and Thomas, and they all go after the clockwork stuff, right? Sophie brings her inside to fix her up, right? And then Will and Thomas pick up Jem and bring him inside. And so they have she and Sophie have a discussion about about Jem. And then Charlotte comes along, and they talk about what happened out there. And about the machines that they found. So they're machines, but they're not ready to be out in daylight, but they can fool enough in the evenings. So that's why they were out, trying to grab Tessa. And then Will comes in. He's like, oh, he wants to talk to you. And so he brings Tessa to Jim. And he's like, I'm sorry, Tessa. And he's like, you don't have to be sorry. If it wasn't for me, you'd never have been hurt. He's like, hurt. I wasn't hurt. And Will's like, James. And he's like, she should know, William. He's like, go away if you don't want to listen to this. If you don't want to hear me say this. So he confesses. And says that the Yanulo held a grudge against his mother. She'd been responsible for a number of the deaths of his demon offspring. He had a nest in a small town, and she went in, burned the nest, and escaped before the demon found her. But I never forgot. So when Jim was 12, he found a weak spot in the ward and tunneled inside, killed the guards, and took his parents prisoner. Tied them all to chairs and tortured Jem in front of his parents by injecting him with a burning demon poison that scorched his veins and tore his mind. He said, for 2 days I went in and out of hallucinations and dreams. I saw the world drowned in rivers, and I heard the screams of all the dead and the dying throughout history. Now this is what I think is very important. This part he says next, I think is something that nobody has caught so far, that deals with the future. So I think he saw the future here. I saw London burning and great metal creatures striding here and there like huge spiders. So they're dealing with mechanical beings right now, and you see metal creatures striding here and there like huge spiders at the age of 12, and because of this demon poison. So he's like, every few hours I would come back to reality long enough to hear my parents screaming for me. He said, on the second day I came back and only heard my mother. His father had been silenced. And she was screaming his Chinese name, Jian, instead. So when they finally rescued him, he was hooked. So basically, the demon poison is like a drug to him. His body cannot function without it. And he almost dies not having it. So even though it's slowly killing him, he needs it in order to be able to function. So when he's going out and fighting, he has to have it. And so the reason why he collapsed, when he collapsed, was because he hadn't taken any to help him be able to fight. So he's already taken some. Will didn't think he should have told Tessa, but Jem thought Tessa deserved to know. So she leaves after she thinks he's fallen asleep and runs into Sophie. And Sophie's asking about if he's alright. And she realizes that Sophie's actually in love with Jem. Ooh la 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 on that, right? Then she goes to her room to go to sleep because her brother's asleep. And then Sophie wakes her up because Nate's gone. So Nate, Jessamine's like, oh, I was asleep and then I woke up and he was gone. And so everybody was searching for him. Thomas found him. And Thomas found him in the drawing room behind the curtains. So she goes in there to talk to him and try to calm him down. And he's talking about how he was told that the Institute and the Shadow Hunters and Nephilims were terrible evil monsters that would torture them and hold them captive forever and ever more. They're very fun. He's like, we should run away and go back to New York. And she's like, we can't go nowhere. We don't have anything. We're physically broke, you know. And he's like, well, we'll find it. We'll make it. So he's like, we should go back to live our normal lives. And then the doors open, and it's like, Miss Gray, Master Will is here. And so she's like, we need to talk out in the thing. And she's like, don't be mean to him. She's like, do you want me to apologize about the kids? And she's like, no, I want you to not be mean to my brother. He's been through things. She's like, everyone hides things. There are things I know he's ashamed of, but that doesn't mean they need to matter to you. It's not as if you tell everyone everything, do you? And he's like, what are you on about? She's like, what about him? You didn't tell me about him. Because she couldn't say, what about your parents? Actually, she could. What about your parents? She never say anything about your parents. You say you're not orphaned, but you live here with them, the Shadow Hunters, and not with your parents. She could have said that, but she didn't. She was thinking more about the fact that, why do you refuse to see your parents? Why do you have nowhere to go? And why in the end did you send me away? All those are things she really wants to know. But, of course, Will's hiding secrets, so she obviously can't ask those because she doesn't want Will to know she knows. So they have a conversation about Will and Jem and about how much they know about each other. She's like, you should totally have went searching for a cure. You should have been looking for one, even if he said no. And he said, disregard his wishes? No, we're not going to do that. That's not how that works. It's like, you should have. You shouldn't have accepted his death. That's inevitable death. And I'm like, nope. And then Jem says, what's going on here then? And he's like, what are you doing out of bed? Will's like, what are you doing about it? And he's like, I ran into Charlotte in the hall. She said we're all meeting in the drawing room to talk to Tessa's brother. I'm well enough to listen at least. And Charlotte comes, oh good, you're all here. And so they all strode in. Henry, Jessamine, Sophie, Thomas, Charlotte, Nate, Tessa, Will, Jem. I don't know if I said people's names again. There's the 2 servants. There's the 2 adults. There's Jessamine, Tessa, and the 3 boys. Okay, yes, so there you go. So they brought in blankets, in dress, a tray of sandwiches and tea. And then he's like, the tea and blankets, are they for Nate? And Sophie says, Mrs. Branwell thought he'd likely be hungry. And that's where I stopped. But I still read a little bit of the next page, and it said, and Jessamine's like, I thought he'd be cold. She's trying to get on his good side because she wants to marry him. But I have a sinking feeling that, of course, everything is not as it seems. And, you know, something bad's going to happen. Is that Will or is that Jem on the front? That, you can't see that. Is that Will or Jem on the front? I wonder. And who is that in the back? You know, here. Is that Will or Jem? There's a mechanical man in the background. You can definitely tell that thing does not know how to run. Automations like that in 1878? That's just like impossible. That was for us at least. In this world, I guess. But in ours, impossible. Like straight up, impossible. Anyways, this is as far as I've gotten. I'm trying to get rid of the ums and stuff, so we're going to see how well that goes. I have finished Clockwork Angel. Let me tell you, the twist at the end, it was a good twist. It was a surprising twist. It was a twist I didn't expect. Exactly. They talked to Nate, right? Nathan talks about everything that happened. He lies because they give him the reason to lie, because they don't know who the Magister really is. And so they're like, De Quincey is a Magister, and he runs along with that, and he sits there and talks about how he wanted to sell because he's always in debt back when he lived with their Aunt Harriet, and he was looking for some jewelry that belonged to their mother, and he found notes, his mother's notes, that read about the Pandemonium Club, Mortimain, all of that stuff. And there was a bunch of missing notes. So he didn't go first. He wrote to Mortimain threatening him, and Mortimain sent him a ticket to go to London. So that's what he did, and he met him in person. And Mortimain hired him. And I think he was like, oh yeah, then I got introduced to them Pandemonium Club, and then I was falling down in it, gambling, and lost debt to De Quincey, and De Quincey said that I could pay my debt by bringing my sister with me, right, to me, and so I sold my sister for some silver, right? That's what I said. So that's how that comes to be, how she gets sent for and everything. I'm going to call her Jessa because I hate how her name is Jessamine, and I always want to say Jessamine. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, and I really don't care. But Jessa sits there and defends Nate against Will and Charlotte because of everything. Well, mainly Will. And that it wouldn't have done them any good for Nate to refuse De Quincey because De Quincey was powerful. At least that's what they thought. You know, the Dark Sisters were supposed to be reporting on it, and then the pandemonium and all that stuff. Oh my god. Talking about how destroying them with creatures not made of God or hell, heaven or hell, right? The clockwork creatures. So he sits there and goes, I know where De Quincy's hauling. I know there's going to be like hundreds of people there. I know it's going to be where a bunch of automations are going to be with the factory and everything. And he points it out, talking about how it's going to happen on the full moon. Jem had actually ran away to go see when the full moon is. And so he comes back and says it's tonight. It's not tomorrow. It's tonight. We have to do it tonight. So Charlotte goes and informs the Enclave that they need to do this tonight, or else a lot of bad shit's going to happen. Then that's when they realize that Jessa, Will, and Jem are not going to be going with them. So Nate goes to put some clothes on. Tessa sits there and puts some clothes, makes herself look better. And then they're gone. Right? They're gone. That's all it is. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Will says, well, you can be able to go home soon. Because Jess was like, I would like to go home. Tess was like, I would like to go home. And they're like, yeah, you'll be able to go home soon. So Jessa and has a game set up for her and Nate, and Will doesn't get involved in it, but I think Jem does. And Nate's drinking friggin' brandy. And Tessa does not approve, obviously. There's a knock on the door. And there's Mortimer. He wants to talk. And so he sits there and talks about how there's thousands of them. And it's somewhere else. And, well, it deals with the Dark Sisters. Because the Dark Sisters are back. Well, yeah. Saying that some time ago Quincy ordered a bunch of mechanical wheels for me. Oak may despise, but I do not. Yeah. He said he paid a pair of warlocks called the Dark Sisters to create a binding spell. They already figured that one out. And he says that her sister brought her back via necromantic charm. Now, he's talking about how she's already back and the Dark Sisters are still at it. And it's like, well, we need to move now. So, he's like, are you not going to do something about it? And I was like, we might. But good night, bye. And he was like, we might, bye. And so they're like, yep, we're going to go after them. We're going to stop the Dark Sisters. That's what we're going to do. And Tessa's like, what if he's wrong? What if Mortimer's giving us wrong information? He might have faulty information. She's like, well, we still have to go check. We have to. So, they leave, but Tessa, who sits there and wants to say something, she's like, I didn't mean to say goodbye, but it seems odd to let you leave without saying anything at all. And he says, Mizpah. She's like, what? It's a sort of goodbye without saying goodbye. And Mizpah, for he said, the Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent one from another. So, she watches them leave, and then somebody comes knocking at the door and breaks in. Now, of course, the mechanical being that breaks in has Jem's dry blood on their hands. So obviously that counts. So it stabs Agatha and kills her. And Sophie's like a mess about it. And Tessa figures out how it happened. And she's trying to get Sophie away, but Sophie's just staying there, and it's not working. She's not leaving, and there's a bunch of them advancing. Will and Jem go to the house that they find, and they say nobody's been here for like 50 years, but they do find, of course, they find a cat. They find Mrs. Black's head. Mrs. Dark comes in. It's like, why are you here? She's like, what difference does it make to you? Surely there are darker crimes in London that more urgently require the attention of Shadowhunters than my poor attempts to bring back my sister. So she hasn't actually brought her sister back yet. And then they're like, we know that about the Magister being the DeQuincy, and she's like, ha ha ha, that Ponce, preening vampire. Oh, what a joke. You fools. You stupid little fools. So, DeQuincy isn't the Magister. Get that out. Thomas sits there and says, Miss Lovelace, please take Sophie and Miss Grey to the sanctuary. And another voice says, no, I don't think so. Or rather, certainly take the servant girl and go where you like with her. But Miss Grey will be reigning here, as will her brother. Mortimer's back. And he goes, Nathaniel Grey, excellently done. I admired that my faith in you was tested. I admit that my faith in you was tested sorely, but you have recovered admirably from your past missteps. I'm proud of you. He's like, it was only my desire to serve you, Magister. So Nate fucking lied about everything. And it's like a big surprise there. So they find out that DeQuincy isn't the Magister. Well, Will and Jem do, that it was somebody else, and she's not going to say who. So they're fighting her off, and they're trying to get her to slip up, right? And while that's happening, Tessa and Sophie are there, saying, "Yep, I had to lure out young Carstairs and Arundel of the place with a far-fetched tale, and then that I might enter unmolested." And he's like, Tessa's like, "Who is this, Nate?" And he's like, "This is the Magister. If you were wise, you would kneel too." So he's like, he sold his sister to Mortimer for like 30 silvers. And promise of immortality and powers, so that way he could, live forever as a powerful non-mundane. So, she's fighting, Jessamine is fighting. Jessamine said, "Who is this Nate?" They're fighting, and a creature, mental can grips his grip on her and on her throat, and just starts choking her. Mortimer's trying to get the mechanical thing to happen, and then this wonderful thing happens where her little Clockwork Angel that she carries on her necklace sits there and has eyes glowing, and it's soaring up, and wings are flying out, and is ripping apart the mannequin arm until it drops Tessa. Right? So they'll definitely go after Jessie, and Jessie's got to fight, and she's like, Thomas is like, "Miss Grey, now take Sophie." And she shoves Sophie at Tessa, and they go to Sanctuary. So Will and Jem are fighting her, and they defeated her, and they're like, "Oh, look, a cat. It's alive." So they open the cage for the cat. They win against her. Yay, and they learn that Mortimer is actually, because Will's sister says, "If you will not tell us who the Magister is, perhaps you can answer a simple question instead. Is Axel Mortimer Mad Magister?" And she goes, "Oh, he'll think I think I told you. He'll never forgive us. I'll never earn his forgiveness now." And she's like, and Jim's like, "Mortimer?" He's like, "Okay, I see it." And they find out that the reason why he set them on, I cannot talk right now. They learn that he set them on DeQuincy's tail because DeQuincy was trying to become Magister himself, and through insubordination and ignoring Mortimer. So that's what Mortimer was doing. And then they learned that Nathaniel Grey was in on it, and that they were working together. And they left him alone at the Institute. He wants to get rid of the Shadowhunter. Why? So he can rule over London, which is weird. So they finally go up, and Tessa gets them to the sanctuary, but she can't get in. But there is a key. Sophie sits there and goes, "I gotta go get the key." So she takes off to go get the key. And Nate shows up. He goes, "My Tessa, that was very impressive. But I am fast because I have powers." And then they find out he's a favorite acolyte, even though he's disappointed. He's "You should have just stayed." And it's like, cleverness that comes too late is hardly cleverness at all. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I also sit there. I gave you truth. Quincy's nest, an empty house that burned out ruin. It was A bit of it was the truth. Because, you know, the best kept lies are in truth. And he's like, oh, I also killed our aunt, giving you poisoned chocolate that I knew you wouldn't eat, but I knew you would give to Aunt Henriette. It's like, you were supposed to marry her, so that way Mortimer will be ensconced in Buckingham Palace, the Empire will bow to his rule. And he's like, you're no sister of mine, you're not related to me. They're actually half siblings. Mortimer tells her that. Her mother slept with who she thought was her husband, not realizing that she's cheating, and got pregnant with it, but she didn't know who she was, because apparently her mother was also something. And Mortimer knew that, because apparently it's been going on for generations that they've been building up to Tessa, who's a shape-changing warlock, like Mrs. Dark, because Mrs. Black was not a warlock, but Mrs. Dark was. She was a warlock, a shape changer, but she couldn't do like what Tessa could do, but it was being all built up to Tessa. So she learns all of that, but they do make it into the sanctuary. Of course, unfortunately, she freaking left Thomas behind. The bastard that she is. Jessa is just a bastard. So Will goes up there, we have to go, so he actually cuts off a horse and rides off, leaving Jem stranded, and Jem has to fix it to get there, so he makes it there. Sophie, Jesse, and Tessa are inside of the sanctuary now, and she says, she's like, wait, hold up. So we won't be here long, I'm sure. Someone will come back to rescue us, Will or Charlotte. And there's like, fine, the institute full of clockwork monsters and Mortimer. I'm not sure it'll look quite so simple as you make it out to be. And she's like, don't look at me as if it's my fault. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be in this mess. The only raging by the magistrate is there, of course, for Tessa. And Tessa's like, it is my fault. I told Charlotte to send me away, but she wouldn't. She's like, Charlotte's soft-headed, and so is Henry. Will think he's Galahad. Wants to save everyone. Jem, too. None of them are practical. You'd have been out the door with nothing but the key to show your name if I was running this place. And Agatha and Thomas would still be alive. Of course, Sophie went pale and goes, Thomas is dead? She didn't say nothing. She left him there. And she's like, I'm a lady. Men have to sacrifice themselves for ladies. She's like, this rubbish, you're a shadow hunter. And Thomas is a mundane. You could have helped him. You just wouldn't, because you're selfish and awful. And then they hear through the door a familiar voice. Tessa? Sophie? It's Will. And Jess is like, oh, Will, I'm here too. Are you sorry? What happened? We raced her from Highgate. I saw the doors instantly open. How did the angels named Mortimer get in? He said the Clockwork Angels are destroyed, and Jesse opens up the door, but Tessa tells her, tries to stop her, but not. Nope, not. He finally makes it there, and unfortunately, the doors are open. It's strictly against covenant law to leave the doors of the institute standing ajar, so he stops in. Mortimer comes in with Nate. Unfortunately. And he tells Nathaniel to go retrieve to the weapons room and get what they need. Because they want it. And they need it. And he looks to Sophie and Justine goes, get out. And Sophie's like, no. He's like, very well, kill the two girls. And Tessa pleads for her. No, I lost my page. No, I lost it. There we are. It's Cat's fault. Would you get the fuck out of the way? Go on, go get it. Of course, you don't go nowhere. Like, what the fuck, Cat? You're in the way. They can't see me. It's important for them to see me. Lay down at least. Lay down. Tessa says, stop it, I will do whatever you say, just let them go. And she's like, alright, let them go and get out. Take the girls and move them. So the mechanical monsters move Jessa and Sophie out of the room, leaving Mrs. Gray, Tessa, with Mortimer. Will finds Thomas dying. Well, he thinks he's done. He says, hail and farewell, Thomas. And he says, he's like, not a shadow hunter. And he goes, she's alive. The one you came back for, her, Tessa. She's with Sophie. Take care of Sophie. Will, Sophie is. And then he's, of course, passes. He goes, sleep then, good and faithful servant of the Nephilim, and thank you. And then he dashes up the staircase. Mortimer's always hoping our first time would be more pleasant than this. And then explains, like I said, about her. And he's like, I need you to take, it has the initials JTS on this watch. And he's like, I need you to change. This watch used to belong to someone I very much want to meet again. I know the Dark Sisters taught you. I know you know your power. You are the only one in the world who can do what you do. I know this because I made you. So, he's like, we can summon the thing that was your father. He says. Yeah. So she picks up a knife and she sits there and says that he's like, if you don't do what I say, well, we'll kill you all for your friends while you watch. And she says, stop. He's like, really, do you think that will harm me? Do you think I came entirely armed? She's like, nope. And then she points it directly at your chest. Says, but I can end my own life. I'll put it through my heart if you move one more step toward that door. So he stops. Jim flies there. He gets there a little late. And he says, Will, can you hear me? And she's like, Jim, Nate's a liar. This is just as Jessa saying, Nate's a liar. And Nate's like, silence her. He's got the pious box in his hand. None but the shadow hunters can touch it. But of course, it's a mechanical being that has the pious in its hands. No living creature, that is. But an automate is not alive. My master wants demon injuries, demon energies he shall have. Jim's like, I can't believe that you and Tessa share anything at all. She's so much finer than you. And Nathaniel's like, she's not my concern. She belongs to Mortimer. And Jem's like, Mortimer, I don't know what Mortimer promised to you, but I can promise you that if you heard Jessa or Sophie, and if you take the pious from these promises, the clave will harden you and find you and kill you. He's like, none of you understand. The best you can do is take me alive. Master's promised me that I won't ever die. And then tells him to kill him. Tells the Clockwork Angel to kill him. So they fight. Nate, caught by the brass fire, yelled and jumped back. So he had burning holes in his body, and the Clockwork Protector was not doing anything. Protect. Drop them, kill the Shadow Hunter, kill him, do you hear me? So the one that was holding Sophie and Jessamine drops and goes to fight. Charlotte comes to the rescue. And Jesse's like, he's gone! Nathaniel, he vanished with the creature and the pikes. Tells his brother. And that's when they find out that everything there was a lie. And Henry's like, this is a disaster. And I was like, where are they? Tessa's in the sanctuary with Mortimer. Will, I didn't even realize he was here. He's inside. He would have gone after Tessa. Mortimer steps closer and goes, she's like, don't come closer. And she can feel blood balloon on her bosom. And he's like, what makes you think I care if you live or die? I was like, you made me. Of course you want me for whatever it is you did. And I want to know what you want from me. Tell me, why have you created me? Who are my true parents? And he's like, you're asking the wrong questions. She's like, why am I what I am? And Nate is only human. And he's like, Nathaniel's your half-brother. He's nothing more than a human being. And then, I will give you the answers. We put the knife down. Perhaps we can summon the thing that fathered you. It's like, if you insist, I suppose that's the best word for what you are. You're not really a warlock, but you are. And my mother would never have with a demon. And she's like, had no idea. that she was unfaithful. She's like, then why am I not marked? Why indeed are you not? Perhaps because your mother had no idea what she was any more than you do. And it's like, I was overthinking the creation of something unique in the world, something unique that would belong to me. And it was something that was been before even he stepped forward to carry it forward. He's like, it would not have mattered how you looked. It was the possibility of the thousands of faces you could wear. When will you learn that there is no real Tessa Gray? And she's like, get out. She's like, get out, leave the Institute, take your monsters with you, or I'll stab myself in the heart. And he's like, I don't believe he'll do it. You may be a warlock, but you're still a young girl. A delicate female. And then she's like, don't come any closer. And he's like, you won't. And then she hears Will's voice. She took poison rather than let herself be captured by the Romans. She was braver than any man. Yes, I will. And then she spun as he lunged. And she fell into the water. So, Will finds the door is locked, and he opens up the door to find Tessa laying crumpled by the fountain, water stained with blood, and Mortimain by her shoulder. He's like, and Will's like, you killed her. He's like, no, I didn't touch her. She did this to herself. And Will's like, you lie. Do you know what happens when I drive one of these into human flesh? It will burn as it cuts you. You will die in agony, burning from the inside out. You think you grieve her loss, Will Horrendale? Your grief is nothing to mine. Years of work, dreams, more than you could ever imagine, wasted. Then be comforted, for your pain will be short duration. And then he disappears. He's like, Tessa. Will, is that you? Bandages, I must get bandages. I was like, don't worry, Will. She's like, well, you must be careful, Mortimain. He's here. He's like, save your strength. Mortimer's gone. Oh, no, you worry. It's not my blood. She changed very quickly because she remembered one of the people that she had changed into, one of the women that she had changed into, had died from a gunshot wound, and blood had been pouring out of her. So she changed to let the blood pour out of her like she stabbed herself. And then she fainted. And then she woke up and was trying to pretend dead until somebody came to the rescue. She was really happy that Will showed up. She's like, I thought when I heard your voice that it was a dream, but you are real. You are real. And he's like, say something, Will. He had opened his mouth. The words were there. He was about to say them when a jolt of terror went through him. The terror of someone who, wandering in a mist, pauses and realizes that they have stopped inches from the edge of a gaping abyss. The way she looked at him. She could read what was in his eyes. He realized it must have been written plainly there, like words on the page of a book. There had been no time, no chance to hide. But there was nothing to say. There was only the emptiness, as there had been before her, as there will always be. I have lost everything, Will thought. Everything. So, Will really likes Tessa, but he doesn't do anything about it, and he, seals off his heart. And I don't know why. So a funeral happens, and Charlotte's like, oh, I hate ones. And she's like, oh, I didn't know what you're going to say, Charlotte. And it's quite alright. I will go. I will leave. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm asking you to stay, because, they are angry, and they think that maybe I can't run the Institute, and that Benedict might actually come over to take over the Institute. But if I have you on my side, Tessa, you on my side, I can have things going well, because you can be my link to the Downworlders. Because, now that Emily doesn't have to hide, Magnus Bane might be back into it. And so, yeah, if only you will help me. So she says, but the law. She's like, there is no law of you remaining here as our guest. I have searched the archives, and nothing prevents you from staying. So do you consent? Do you stay? And she says, so she rushes up to tell Will that she can stay. And Will goes, oh, well, we can have a dather. As in, we can have a friends with benefit thing, but that's about all we're going to get until you leave, because I'm not going to be in with you. And she's like, that's not what I meant. She's like, I want things. He's like, well, it doesn't matter. Warlocks can't have children. And, of course, she goes, no one told me. And then he's like, there's nothing more for me to say, and he walks away. And she reads that, nope, warlocks can't have children. But is she really a warlock? Because she doesn't have a warlock mark. So, is she is she really possibly able to have children? That's a good question. Of course, I have read the next book in the series, which, of course, will spoil it. So if anybody has read The Lost Hours, you will know the answer to that, whether she can and cannot have children, because I do. I actually had to re-look, because I'm like, I'm pretty sure that I know who she ends up with, and whether or not she has kids. So I had to look. And I was like, oh yeah, I did remember right. Because then I'm like, but it makes no sense. Because I know in the Dark Artifacts that she doesn't, she ends up with this person. And I'm like, so you have to read, like, you literally have to read The Infernal Devices to get Tessa and Will's background, and Jem's, of course. Tessa, Will, and Jem's background. And then The Last Hours give you more of Tessa, Will, and Jem. And then The Dark Artifacts give you more of Tessa and Jem. Because obviously, Will's human, and Jem stops being human. But I can't tell you what happens to him if you haven't read anything, so you just don't know. I mean, like, you can Google it. Spoil yourself. But, yeah. Things happen. So, she leaves, and then she sees a cat, and she calls for it. And he's like, oh. Tessa, is that you? And it's Jem. He's like, your cat seems to have wandered here. He's like, yep, church seems to be going wherever. He's like, I heard the good news. You can stay. She's like, oh, yes. And she was like, I was hoping that, Will will be more happy about it. And then he talks about how church got church's name. And that he might live forever because he was experimented on. She's like, showed him, like, Will gave this to me. And it shows him that, shows her that she now knows that warlocks can't have kids. I was like, oh, did you not know this? She's like, nope. And she's like, it's not that I dreamed of having children. I had not thought that far stuff her head. But it's not a thing that separates me from humanity. It makes me a monster. Something set apart. He's like, perhaps. But you carry no warlock's mark. So how can you be certain that this one piece of information is correct? Don't allow it to drive you to despair. And he's like, they hid you from Mortimain, so they must have loved you. Because she's like, what if my parents, how could she ever love me? And she's like, it's better to know the truth. I want to know everything about me. And then she talks about how, I know the truth about Nate. And as painful as it is better than being lied to. Better than going on loving someone who cannot love me back. He's like, I think he did love you in his own way. Love is not something that can be wasted. She's like, it's so hard to be alone. She's like, well, my parents, like yours, are dead. So are Jesse's, and even Henry's and Charlotte's. Will's might as well be. I am not sure there is anyone in the Institute who is not without family. Otherwise, we would not be here. I am not blaming you. Perhaps we are here because you are otherwise alone. Well, we have all these people. We're not really alone. We're a family. She's like, but not my family. They could be. They could be. When I first came here, I didn't think this place was going to be mine. And I was homesick. And then Will gave me something. He shows her what it is. It's a little pendant made of jade. It reminded him of a fist. And so he carries it everywhere he goes. And she's like, well, he made it very clear that he didn't want me here. That my remaining in here is not a happy chance for him. I was like, and after I'd finished telling you why you should consider him family. He's like, we will throw him out onto the streets. But it made me feel. She's like, oh, you can't do that. But I know. But it made you feel better. She's like, it was like a beautiful dream. Like, Will is difficult. But family is difficult. Didn't think the Institute was the best place for you, Tessa. I would not say that it was. And one can build one's own family. I know you feel inhuman. And as if you are set apart. Away from life and love. But I promise you. The right man won't care. And then, knock on the window. Knock on the window. Knock on the window. Like a little bird trying to struggle to get in. And in comes Her little Clockwork Angel. It came back to her. And then it skips to the epilogue, which is Magnus Bane inside Camelia's house, who has packed up and left. Archer comes in and says, "There's someone to see you, sir. One of the Nephilim." He says his business with you is urgent. And then he's wet. So, Will Herondel is there. He's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I came here on my own accord. I need your help. There's absolutely no one else I can ask." And he's like, "Really?" And he goes, "Very well." After he locks the parlor door. "Why don't you tell me what the problem is?" What's the problem, Will? What's the problem? That is one way to set off and make you want to read the next one. So I want to go ahead and buy Clockwork Prince. And hopefully get to read it soon-ish. You know. That's what I'm hoping for anyways. There is so much that goes on in the world that you don't know what's going on in the world. So that's the end of this one. Who was my favorite character? I would have to say Jem. Because he's such a fucking gentleman. He is, without a doubt, a really good gentleman. And I would swoon over someone like that in my life. Like, come on, give me Jem. So why he's called Jem when his name is James? Or Gian. Maybe that's where he gets it from. My most disliked character. Nathaniel Gray. You sold your own bloody sister, your own bloody half-sister, who might not be fully human. For what? Immortality? Because you think you deserve it? You, a gambler, addicted, personality type of person? No. No. You don't deserve shit. And maybe Mortimer might be my most disliked character, maybe at the end of the series. But right now, it is Nathaniel. And I hope he burns in hell when they finally kill him. What stood out as memorable? That the Clockwork Angel is just this little necklace-like thing that has been working for years, and it defended Tessa. And it used to belong to her mother. So there is something going on with that little angel thing that deals with the autonomons. And I think it's going to be her greatest weapon in the end. And of course, Jem's freaking torture at the hands of that freaking Yan Yao demon. He saw mechanical beings burning London. He saw the mechanical beings that are now threatening London. So that's so interesting. My favorite passage from this is here. Here it is. So, she managed to look down, her vision blurred, and saw to her amazement that the little metal angel had emerged from beneath the collar of her dress, its sword upward, lifting the chain over her head. Its eyes seemed to glow as it flew upward. For the first time, its mechanical wings were spread, and Tessa saw that each wing was edged with something shimmering and razor-sharp. As she watched in amazement, the angel dived like a hornet, slashing with the edges of its wings at the head of the creature holding her, slicing through copper and metal, sending up a shower of red sparks. But the little angel defended her. I think that is like so freaking sweet. My favorite quote. Goodness. One of them. Goodness. My nose is enormous. Why didn't anyone tell me? This is Jessie when Tessa turns into her. And my second favorite quote. Tessa says, goodness. If you keep seeing Six Finger Nigel like this, he'll expect you to declare your intentions. Like he talks about the Six Finger Nigel who he had a bar fight with, and he's like, I have something I need to do tonight. And she's like, oh. If you keep seeing him, he'll expect you to declare your intentions of, marrying him, dating him, whatever it is. What I thought about the end of the book. Very good cliffhanger. I hate that Nathaniel's still alive. I hate the Mortimer. I do wonder what Will and Magnus Bane are going to be talking about. What is it that you're hiding, Will? what is it that has made you move to figure out whatever it is you need to figure out that you've been hiding from people? What is it? What is it? What is it? Tell me. I mean, I'll find out. Obviously. The more I read. The more I read, the more I'll know. Okay. What book did it remind me of? Every single Cassandra Clare book I have read. That's what it reminded me of. Because, I mean, like, she's very good at sending out these twists in the end, and she's very good at hooking you in the beginning. She's really good at hooking you. I mean, like, 100% good at hooking you into wanting to read more. This book is new as part of a series, the 3-book series, The Infernal Devices, and then the 9, 12, 15 book series, if not more, if you count. If you count the Welcome to the Shadowhunters Academy, that's 16. The Last Horrendel, that's 17. And then, of course, the Bane Chronicles, if there's more to those. I don't know if it's a 3 or a 4 or whatever. And the Shadowhunter no, it's one book. So that's 18, and then the Shadowhunters Codex, which is 19. I mean, like, that's a lot. So it's 19 books. And maybe counting more. Don't know if she's done or not. She could be written more. Because the Queen of Air and Darkness is the latest book she wrote, I believe. So there's probably more, maybe, in her Shadowhunter world. Because she's got a lot of characters that she can just tell backstories to and everything. So, yeah. It's a huge series to get into. And I am happy I got into it, of course. I rate this a 4.5. I believe. Let me make sure I wrote the right one. Yeah, 4.5. And why? Because it's really good, and I wanted to read more. And I mean, like, yes, I didn't tab very much of it, but I did tab a lot of stuff that I thought was really there interesting. And yeah. It's all 4.5. So, if you guys think I deserve a like, comment, or a lovely subscription, why don't you go ahead and drop it down below? I will see you next illusion.